For your next news story, it's very important that you go to our Schoology page. You'll notice that I added a folder called News Brite. Let's take a look at that. So when you get to that folder, you'll see that there's a number of different attachments that are now available. If you click on the first one, it's called the News Brite Assignment Fall 2018. This is your assignment page. This is outlining exactly what the expectations are for this next story. So before we actually start reading what's on this screen, I want you to understand that it is extremely common in the news industry to have a story called a news brief, BRIEF. A news brief is when breaking news has taken place and there's only a few details that are known at that time. A news brief is a very serious news story. It tends to relate to politics or crime. So the opposite of that is a short news story that is lighthearted and fun, and that is called a news bright. So your assignment is to write a news bright. This is going to be a very short factual story that people will enjoy reading because it's simply silly. It's very humorous. You can shed light on a strange hobby, someone's obsession, a funny moment, or anything else that has entertained. Your Bright must feature a Mayfield student, or a staff member, or a Mayfield High School parent. Include only one or two quotes total from that primary source. Your job is to incorporate personality with your word choices to make the story more engaging. We want you to choose vivid verbs and to consider how you can blend in humor. Remember, this story is still written in third person. So you may not use any personal pronouns like I, me, you, we, or our. You should also take a personalized picture of your person with the activity that's being featured. For example, we're going to look at a picture in this story from Carly Stewart. She ate an entire box of frozen waffles. There's an excellent picture of Carly having a frozen waffle in her mouth that truly captures the essence of what that story is. However, we understand that if you're featuring something that happened a while ago or there's no possible picture to get it, if you refer to the Mr. Macar story in Schoology, it's perfectly appropriate to get a fair use photo as long as it's still relevant to your story's angle. Your News Bright is a total of 3 paragraphs, so this is a very short news story. Your story structure looks like this. You have a summary lead that is only one sentence. Make sure that sentence is under 30 words. You then have 2 paragraphs that follow. The first paragraph that follows is going to describe the primary event that you're featuring. Your last paragraph is going to add further secondary details. You're still writing in a summary lead by giving us the most important details first and then giving us the details that matter least at the end of the story. It's just that this story is extremely short. There is no word count for this story. In terms of your timeline, you are going to have today's class to brainstorm as well as tomorrow's class to brainstorm. Your proposal is due to Schoology by the end of class tomorrow on Wednesday, October 3rd. Your rough draft is going to be due by the end of class on Friday, October the 5th. That's going to give you all of class on Thursday, all of class on Friday, and Thursday night for homework if you need it. Your final story will be due by the end of class on Monday, October 8th. We will be meeting in the LMC where you can make final corrections to your paper and print it out. You'll notice there's only one round of rough draft feedback. You're only getting teacher feedback for the story, not a formal round of peer feedback. You, of course, could share your story with peers in the class if you have been finding that process helpful and seeing exactly what people could help you with. Let's go back to the other attachments in Schoology. This is what your proposal page is going to look like. You're going to be able to click on that and answer those questions. I believe there's 4 or 5 questions total. You're going to be typing your rough draft directly into this page, and you're going to be submitting that to Schoology. This is a copy of your rubric. This is, of course, going to be what is stapled to the top of your page on Monday when you turn in your final copy. And let's take a look at these examples. This first example, as I've already alluded to, is featuring Carly Stewart. This is going to take you to the paw print website. The headline summarizes the entire story. Junior eats whole box of frozen waffles. And you can see a really clever and funny picture there of Carly holding up the Eggo waffle box, uh, biting into a frozen waffle. And she took this as a selfie, which is why Julie Steffens, who wrote the story, she gave the photo credit to Carly. What Julie did not include is a photo caption, and that, of course, would make this even better. So if you take a look here at this summary lead, on the internet, there are many insane food challenges such as the cinnamon challenge or the hot pepper challenge, but Junior Carly Stewart discovered a new challenge, the frozen waffle challenge. So now this summarizes the topic and the angle. The topic is Junior Carly Stewart. The angle is what she did that is silly, amusing, humorous, lighthearted, obsessive, or something else. In this case, it's kind of bizarre and wacky that she ate a box of frozen waffles. During that late hours of a November night, Stewart began to indulge in her waffles, her two friends bewildered that they were still frozen as she keeps devouring them. After an hour has passed, an empty box hits the floor, and Stewart has demolished an entire box while they were still frozen. Stewart said, I always eat my waffles while they are still frozen, mostly because I am too lazy to cook them. I was horrified once I realized I ate the entire box. I didn't even know how many I was eating. Just a couple of things to point out regarding this story. You'll notice the really strong word choices here. Her friends were bewildered that they were still frozen. You didn't have to use a word like bewildered. You wouldn't commonly use a word like that, but for this case, it adds a little bit more zest and pep and some humor to this. Also, she devoured them. She didn't just eat the waffles, she devoured them. And when the box was empty, it hit the floor as if there was an impact to that moment when she finished the box. And then my favorite word in this piece is that she demolished the entire box. That's a really funny, interesting way of saying that she ate them or that she finished them, but it's much stronger than that. Lastly, let's take a look at this quote because it adds quite a bit of humor. I always eat my waffles while they are still frozen, mostly because I am too lazy to cook them. Carly helped out Julie in this case by giving her a quote with personality. Even this word like horrified. Obviously, this word would not normally be used with eating a box of waffles. But again, it adds some personality to the story, which is exactly what you want. We want you to select a story idea that's going to be fun, lighthearted, amusing for the reader, because this is something that is very, very not serious news. This falls under the category of soft news. This is something that people would want to read, want to share on Twitter. This is something that people should get excited about. I'm just going to make a mention of the other news stories that are in the folder. I'm not going to read all of them to you, just to give you some possibilities of what you could possibly write. If you guys remember Miss Shea, she was an English teacher here a couple of years ago. Uh, she had a cat obsession and she would often talk about her cats. And so there was a writer a couple of years ago who wrote about that, and Miss Shea, again, this photo credit could be better because I think that was Miss Shea's mother who took this picture. Obviously, Miss Shea's hands are full. It wasn't a selfie. But you can see here a really simple summary lead with personality saying Mackenzie Shea has a cat craze. And she even named her cats after the great Gatsby, Jay Gatsby and Daisy. And so this is more about her obsession with cats. Let's see if we can get this to move any faster. This story on Mr. Ginn is going to show some personality as well. His car was actually stolen, and in the car were his ungraded uh, math tests. And so this is a funny story in which he makes light of a situation that otherwise is criminal and scary and frightening. Um, and Mr. Ginn was again a good sport by adding some humor with his quotes. The tests were still there, but the guy didn't even have the decency to grade them. This is when the car was actually recovered. So again, you want to work with somebody that understands what this assignment is. This person needs to be able to give you some personality with the quotes that they are giving back and sharing with you. A couple of more here. Vlana Salamova, she's now a senior. This was written when she was a sophomore. If you guys know Vladis, she absolutely loves Christmas. And this is a great story that features a great picture of her with her Christmas decorated locker. And this story is all about her obsession and what she enjoys so much about Christmas. And so I think this story, again, does a great job to show you exactly what a news Brite could be. There's lots of them on the paw print. These are just 5 of them that I really liked. And now this last one we've made a reference to already with Mr. Makar in the picture. So I didn't know this until the story was written by Brandon Elliott. Brandon's now a senior. He wrote this when he was a sophomore. Uh, Mr. Makar used to be a high school football kicker. And he actually was a part of taking the team to the state semifinals and eventually to the state title game. And so, what's interesting about this story is Mr. Makar's football coach during practice asked him to kick the ball in through the goalpost, but kick it off of the upright. And Mr. Makar couldn't do it in practice. But when it came to the semifinal game, and he had to kick a field goal to win the game, he actually made the field goal only because it bounced off of the goalpost. And so it's kind of a witty, funny story. I asked Brandon to knock this down to 3 paragraphs, and he just couldn't do it. So he remained it at 3. If you look at the other stories, I think the story flows and works a lot better in just 3 paragraphs. Um, but in a nutshell, you are being asked for this assignment to select a story that you think has some personality. This is not a serious story that would be 500 words. This is a story that adds lighthearted, soft feels, that's humorous, obsessive, something that would be perfectly captured in just 3 short paragraphs. I'm going to be back in class tomorrow. I'll be more than happy to walk you through some more ideas. But your challenge today is to brainstorm and to get that proposal completed by the end of class tomorrow.